to start off by asking you, have you been to Birmingham recently? I was at a conference in Birmingham a few weeks ago, and I have to say that I was incredibly shocked. We were staying in Broad Street for a few days, and so one evening we had an event at St Martin in the Bullring. You're familiar with the church in the Bullring. And from there, we travelled, so travelled with me. We went through New Street, we went up to where the cathedral is, Temple Row, and a few drinks there in the evening, then down into Victoria Square, under the underpass, into Centenary Square, and then back over to Broad Street. But the thing that shocked me was that the last time I experienced street homelessness and begging to the level of that short journey, I was in a capital city of the third world country, not the fifth richest nation on the planet. So Birmingham has a crisis, to see if this works. According to Homeless Link, 6 years ago, the Ross Sleep Camp counted 9, I'm moving this backwards, so I think I say 9. Last year, when the count was done, it was 55. I know there are questions about how these figures are, how the count is done. If you look at the trend, that's an incredible trend. Real problem in Birmingham. But here's the thing, the homelessness figure for the black country looks like this. So this was 2010, so it's a higher base starting point, 22, rising to, in 2016, 58. So the figure is actually greater than Birmingham. Birmingham's a little bit more unique. It has a central hub, it attracts people in the black country dispersed across many areas. That shows you the trend. The actual figures across all the different areas are in that table there. And you can find one on this link's website, but I'm not sure I'll go into those in any detail. There's something very broken in Britain at the moment, when people are forced out of their family home due to overcrowding, perhaps a result of decisions made over the bedroom tax. When petty housing benefit sanctions that are often incentivised leave very vulnerable young people without access to any funds at all, leaving them alone and hungry. And when young people can't access mental health support, unless they reach the absolute crisis point, something is broken. But homelessness has many different faces. It's not one thing, and so it needs many responses to tackle many causes. And the responses are many different symptoms. Now, I hate to disappoint you, but I don't see myself as the expert in this area. And the YMCA don't have all of the solutions. Although much of our work is in supporting vulnerable groups of young people and adults, and often the matters related to homelessness. So the YMCA is a personal development organisation. Across our many services, we help people to grow in mind, body and spirit. And in relation to homelessness in the black country, just to give you a very brief summary, so supporting housing, a range of different size supporting housing projects. If you work for the black country in terms of supporting housing project, not supporting lodgings, would this stand up for you? YMCA black country, I know there's some of you here, so we've got sort of learnings all across the black country, folks down here, Sandwell, Walsall, salaries across the black country as well. Around about, thanks folks, about 250 units of accommodation, principally working with vulnerable young people. Some projects do go into older adults as well. So talk to those folks if you'd like to hear more about that. Our YMCA Open Door and Night Staff service, particularly proud about this. This is the largest service of its kind, providing supported lodgings and providing night staff services. A network of between 80 and 100 people like you and me who may have a spare room all across the black country, providing support to vulnerable young people, particularly 16, 17 and 18-year-olds. And the night staff element of that is 1 or 2 nights at a time, providing almost 2,000 nights project in Warsaw to give the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service. Washed up to go to Buckingham Palace a few weeks ago. Very nice too. And in the last 3 months, so this is one project that does work with rough sleepers in Warsaw. The last quarter has helped pay 19 people who were street homeless and to accommodate them to accommodation. Superb work. But the heart of the matter is not numbers, statistics, it's individual lives. Lives that have often suffered tragedy, abuse, neglect, and often are used to continue with society's stereotyping. So if there's one perspective, I'll just share a perspective, there's one perspective I'd like to leave with you and impress on you, it's this. It's that each person is a unique, valuable individual. They're not a stereotype. So common myths that we commonly face regarding our clients are things like this. They're all trouble. They're all offenders. And because it must be their own fault in the council house to live life on benefits. Homelessness, and it's just the result of their poor life choices. And many of you will work in this sector and be familiar with that. These stereotypes don't really represent the truth of homelessness in the Black Country, and they're stereotypes that we must challenge. I want to leave you with a couple of examples. So Jill was 17 when she moved into our supported housing in Wolverhampton, having been required to leave her home where she lived with her grandparents. Now Jill had started to display some very risky behaviour, and the grandparents were struggling to keep her safe. And when she moved in, a support worker was in daily contact with the social services and the police. Because Jill kept going missing from the project, often she was found to have travelled to London for unknown reasons. A support worker was determined, and Jill finally opened up. She was heavily involved in child sexual exploitation. She desperately needed safeguarding. She needed protecting. YMCA never gave up on Jill. On a number of interventions, she became stable and started to trust us. And Jill, over time, was able to sustain her tenancy at YMCA and finally became safe. Happy to say that Jill is now in her own accommodation and she starts university in September. So Jill didn't choose to be abused, and she didn't choose to be so vulnerable or exploited or to enter supported housing. But she did, however, choose to move on with her life. She did choose to progress to a positive future. She chose not to be reliant on benefits, and for this we are very proud. One more example. Piotr. So Piotr is from Poland. He came into our supported lodgings project when he was 17. Piotr left his home after an altercation with his stepfather. He was subject to homophobic abuse, and Children's Services removed him from the family home. Piotr has learning difficulties, and his grasp of English is also limited. YMCA were able to place Piotr with a host who was also Polish, somewhere else in the Black Country. He was placed in a safe environment where he was made to feel part of the home. Now, although Children's Services supported Piotr financially, when he turned 18, the support was suddenly withdrawn, because you see, at 18 as an adult, he was technically an EU migrant, and the government was thinking that he was no longer entitled to welfare benefits despite his circumstances. And so with no income, family or friends around him, the only support network left was the YMCA staff and his dedicated host. Can you imagine the enormous challenges Piotr had to deal with? A history of abuse, his additional learning needs, limited English, no family, friends, and in addition, now needing to find work immediately in order to remain in this country at 18 years of age. Now, Piotr wrote rose to the challenge. A day after receiving the news, he arranged to go to an employment agency and he gained a position in a factory in Staffordshire. He travelled 60 miles daily on public transport, doing long shifts for several weeks. Such was his determination, and he later took on short-term jobs elsewhere so that he could remain in this supported lodgings. Piotr had come through some very tough times, but without a great post, he'd be homeless and extremely vulnerable. Piotr is anything but lazy. And you see, the point is this. I'm going to sort of round up here. Each young people can choose to live in emergency accommodation. It's not an easy option. Young people don't choose to live in abusive, unstable homes or to be victims of domestic violence. They don't choose to be abandoned by family or be exploited by the very people who should be looking after them. They don't choose to suffer with mental health issues, and they certainly don't choose to rely on benefits. So why is this conference important? Well, I guess it's because tackling the symptoms and causes, moving people from stereotype to dignity and stability needs a multitude of actions, and we are all part of this. It needs to take place in government, charity and community, and individual levels, and each of us has a role to play. And in this present climate, each should be challenged. Can we do more? Can we do differently? Can we do better? And I was reviewing this before. There is so much more I could say about one of those elements, particularly government policy, successive government policies, particularly hit young people and vulnerable homeless people. We go through policy after policy, and challenge there is particularly important, and the YMCA does play its role in that. But it is a collective, and it is something that we all have a role to play in. I hope this conference will stimulate us all to action, to better practice, to tackling symptoms and to removing causes together. And for the sake of our neighbours, young and old, who, then by the grace of God, may actually be